Hey beautiful people, it is me, your girl Angel. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my space. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here with me today. Let's just get into this sweet, beautiful topic. So the other day on Instagram, I had posted a poll and you guys all wanted to know how me and Emmanuel met and how did it even start? What's our love story and all that good stuff. So I wanted to sit here with you guys and kind of have this chit chat because this story is so incredible because it's literally all God. Like when I tell you, I sometimes can't believe it. I'm just like, God, it had to be you. It had to be you doing this, like all of it. So guys, I got my gallon of water right here. I should have probably got a straw because I have lipstick on. And if you guys love this look, I had to look at myself in the viewfinder. If you guys love this look, I recorded it for you guys. So it will be coming out if it's not already posted. So anywho, not in brief, but I just want you guys to get this into your mind first. I got married within a year of dating Emmanuel. We didn't even date for a whole year before we got married. And so when I say, when you know, you know, when you know, you know, and God will confirm, he will give you confirmation. He will blow your mind. So it started in 2017. I remember prior I was in a relationship that I knew I shouldn't have been in. And it took me a long time to really admit to myself that I wasn't supposed to be in that relationship because I wanted it to work, I guess. But every time I thought about can I see myself marrying this person? It would always be no. And I was like, dang, this person could be my husband, but there were certain things that he was lacking. And so I remember we broke up and it was a great breakup. It was very mature. All the best to him. But I remember after we broke up, I was like, you know what? I'm going to revisit my list and really pray on it and, put it before God and trust him in this. And I have another video that I have in mind that I want to put out based on this. But single ladies, you don't have to worry about your husband. God already has that taken care of. When I tell you just be in your place, just be in your place. It will all work out. But anyways, so me now being single, I was like, you know what? I'm going to revisit my husband list. I'm revisit all the things I want my husband to do, all the things I want my husband to be. And I was like, God, I really just want to be married. I've always wanted to be married ever since I was in high school. I remember I wrote in my journal, and I have to find it, but I remember I wrote that I want to be married by 25. I wanted to have kids by 26. I wanted to be retired by 28. It was so high school. Only a high schooler would think of those things and think that it's so attainable within those limits of, the year's perspective. But anyways, I remember I found the list and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a husband journal. And so I remember I had started writing inside of it. I revamped my list. I was like, okay, I want this, I want that, and then there were certain things that I wanted to put on my husband list that I was like, you know what? I don't want anyone to find this and then think I'm weird. So I didn't write it, but God knew my heart, and I'll share with you guys what it was later. So anywho, I'm writing in my husband journal, and my husband journal was a place for me to go so I didn't return back to any past relationships or start relationships that I didn't want to be in because I knew it wouldn't have been good for me. I really wanted to just be single. I really wanted to just focus on myself. I really didn't want to be in another relationship if it wasn't the relationship that God wanted for me. And so I can tell you guys a little bit more about my relationships in another video on why I was at this place where I was like, you know what, I'm really good. I just want to be single. But I started writing, poems. I started writing journal entries like, I can't wait to meet you. You know, whenever I was feeling any type of way, I would just go into that journal and I would write. If I felt lonely, if I felt aroused, like, I'm gonna be really transparent. If I felt aroused, if I felt anything, I would go to this journal and I would just write, because I was like, God, I'm not gonna go back to the things I used to do. I was celibate. I was determined to become a wife because I knew that's what I knew that's what God had for me. I always knew I was going to be a wife and a mother. So I would always go into this journal. And I remember one day, I had two of my girlfriends come over, and we literally did a husband journal day. And I remember we all wrote our list and shared our list, and did different things, you know, because we were all believing, and I'm still believing for them as well, that they will also be married. But we were all thinking, like, guys, like, we're going to be married one day. Let's write, let's dedicate ourselves. Like, let's hold each other accountable so we don't fall, you know? And I remember in May is when I met Emmanuel. And so it was a little bit before that. So I would see Emmanuel at the church. And at first I was like, who is this guy? So at Jubilee, there's these guys that are called armor bearers. And so armor bearers basically, they're kind of like security for the pastor. And so they kind of just make sure, they just make sure service doesn't go kind of weird or anyone does anything out of the normal, whatever. And so, for those of you guys who may or may not know, Pastor Matt is my godfather, and so is Pastor Mona. She's my godmother. And so when I saw Emmanuel around Pastor Matt, I was like, wait, who's this guy? Like, because I normally know the armor bearers that, like, you know, do their thing and serve on Sundays. So when I saw Emmanuel, I'm like, who is this guy? And, you know, I remember always just feeling like he would stare at me. I mean, he'll deny it, but when I tell you this guy would stare at me at church, he would stare at me. And the only reason why I know he would stare at me is because I was staring right back at him. And I don't know if I had liked him. I thought he was attractive, but I didn't really think like, oh yeah, I want him, or oh yeah, he could be it. Nah, it was never like that. When I first saw him, I was like, I'm all set. I just always thought he was weird because he would always stare at me. A little bit later, I remember I got a Facebook message, and he messaged me saying, hey, are you from Guyana or something like that? And I remember thinking to myself, like, why does this guy want to know? Like, I don't know why, but I was just so like irritated when he like messaged me. I was like, because I never talked to anybody at the church. So I was like, So I was like, yeah, I'm from Guyana. And he was like, I recognized the pictures that you had on your Facebook because it was more like in the villages in Guyana. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Guyanese and I'm Trini. And that's when he shared with me that he was also from Guyana and Trinidad. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But I kind of left it like that. I didn't really entertain the conversation. I kind of like let it fizzle out because I was like, I don't care about you. I don't want to know you. I'm all set. And then I remember I would see him at church. It'd be cordial. I'd be like, oh, hi. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Not because I thought I was better than him, but I was in a place where I didn't even want to have like guy friends because I didn't want people to think anything. And I didn't even want to bring my mind to certain places. I just want to be committed to what was on my agenda in that season, which was just paying attention to who I am, who I'm called to be, and, you know, keeping focused because I didn't want to get into another unhealthy, unproductive relationship. And so I remember we didn't talk, you know, I didn't say anything to him. Nothing. It wasn't until the women's conference in May where I saw him, and we had talked a little bit, like he kind of popped back up and he was like, oh, hey, I'm going to be working the conference. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, and then I kind of started feeling him, and I was like, oh, well, he's cute. And, you know, he's messaging me again. And I was like, I don't know. He's kind of short. Like in my head, I'm like 6'3". That's what I want. Anything above 6'3", that's what I want. You know, that was on my list. I wanted a tall guy. I wanted him to just be tall, like really tall. And so when I saw Emmanuel, I was like, he's all right. Like, he's okay, you know? And so I remember we were at this point messaging either off of like Instagram or Facebook. And I remember it was the Saturday, and I remember he would tell me, no, before Saturday, during the conference, he would tell me when he was coming and stuff like that. And I thought that was cool or whatever. But in my head, I was like, I don't know why he's telling me, because I'm not his girl. I'm not really checking for him. But I will admit that I kind of started acting a little different because I liked the attention. And I'm going to just be real. You know, us women, we like attention. And so when he was telling me these things, I was like, okay, cool, but I'm not your girl. But I want to be seen because clearly you're interested. Would I tell someone to do that? No, I probably wouldn't. Guys, don't do that. Especially if you don't think you're interested. Me, I really didn't think I was interested. And so now when I'm saying it, I'm like, you low-key was interested, but girl. Anyways, so it was the Saturday after the luncheon had been over. And so at this luncheon it was an all white with fascinators. And I remember everybody was breaking down the sanctuary and, you know, just getting the church back in order because Sunday was service. And so I remember somebody that I knew, this woman, she had come to me. It was so random. I was in the narthex, which is like our lobby area. She had come to me and she was like, oh my gosh, Angel, there's this really cute guy in the sanctuary and he's just like serving and he's this and he's doing that. And I'm like, okay, let me see who she's talking about. Lo and behold, she's talking about Emmanuel. And in that moment, I got jealous. I got so jealous. And I was like, in my head, I was like, excuse me? Like for some reason in my mind, I was like that, like he's mine. And in that same moment, I kid you not, that's when I knew that he was going to be my husband. And I was like, my husband? And literally my whole, everything, when I tell you everything switched up. I mean, I liked him. And so I remember my god sister, Cam, she was there. And so some of the decorations for the conference were these white sheer IKEA like curtains. And so I was like, Cam, be my flower girl. Let's dress me up like I'm getting married, because I had this beautiful ruffled strapless maxi dress that I had sewn. And if I could find the picture, I'll get it. But I remember she like put one on my head, and I walked into the sanctuary with one of the flower arrangements, and I was walking towards Auntie Mona, and I was like, Auntie Mona, I'm about to get married. And she just busted out laughing, and she was like, girl, you're so silly. But I was dead serious. I was like, I'm about to be married. And I remember Auntie Julie, she was there too. I think she probably took the picture actually. But they were just laughing at me like, okay, Angel, you're crazy. So I remember when I went back upstairs to Pastor Mona's office, I had gotten a text from Emmanuel, and he was like, yeah, I left, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's not how you say bye to somebody. This man drove back. He drove back to give me a hug. And I remember going downstairs to get my hug, and I was like, yep, that's what I'm talking about. Because if you are interested in someone, you're interested in someone. At least that's how I was taking it, right? All right, so that all happened Saturday. The very next day, I was in my sissy's Jeep, Stephanie's Jeep, and I was bawling, crying. And I know y'all are probably like, Angel, what? Like, how do you go from I'm about to get married to bawling, crying in your friend's Jeep? Guys, I think what happened was, no, not that I think, I know what happened. I didn't know much about him, and I think with the attention and, you know, what I've been putting in my husband journal, I was like, God, I don't want to be a fool. Because I started thinking, like, what if this is just a nice guy? Like, you know what I mean? What if he's just a nice guy and I'm reading it wrong and I think he likes me? Or what if he's like this to everybody? And then, you know, all these different things. And then I'm going to be real. I heard some things, and it wasn't bad things, but it was things like I didn't know about him. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't know if he was in a relationship. There was talk that he was, there was talk that he wasn't. I didn't know. And I didn't really want to ask him because I'm not going to pursue you. He who finds a wife finds a good thing. And so I'm not going to ask no questions like I'm all set. So I remember I was sitting in Stephanie's Jeep. I was crying to her outside of my mom's house, and she's like, Angel, what? Like, no, like, you know what I mean? She couldn't believe it because she witnessed Saturday and how I was like, oh, I like him or whatever. And then she saw me totally flipped, and I was like, I'm all set. Like, I did not want him at all. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to, nothing. I was good. I was like, I'm all set. So that was all in May. So we didn't talk at all. And if he had messaged me, I would literally just like let it fizzle out. I didn't respond. Or I was closed-ended. Like, when I responded, I didn't leave room for a conversation. I was all set. When I tell you all set, I was all set. But in that time, I remember I kept writing in my journal. I kept doing what I was called to do. I kept staying in the place that I knew God had for me, which was, just being obedient, to serving, just, being a great friend to my girls, and all of that stuff. And so, now we enter in, we enter in the end of October. And I remember he started popping up again because I hadn't even seen him at church. So from May till the end of October, I didn't see him at church or anything. So literally when I had that moment, it was like he disappeared altogether as well. And I was grateful because, my mind wasn't stuck on him anymore. I wasn't thinking about him. Not that we had a relationship, but I was clear. I was clear. And so I remember, I'm sorry, I keep making that noise. Maybe I need to drink some water. Let me drink some water. Excuse me. Dang, I wish I had a straw. All right, 17 minutes. That's not too bad. All right, anyways. Woo! So it's the end of October now, and yep. So I remember I didn't see him for a long time. He wasn't at the church. There was no interactions, nothing like that. And so I remember he had posted something like, I want to go to the zoo. And for some reason, I was like, I want to go to the zoo. And so I remember, I think I DM'd him and I was like, oh, when are you trying to go? I'll go with you. Don't do that, ladies. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I remember he replied and he said a date, and I guess it was the same date as our church's Harvest Festival, which is like how we celebrate, the harvest, because other people celebrate Halloween and we don't believe in Halloween. And so I was like, oh yeah, I could come. And he kept saying, are you sure? Because there's an event at the church, and he knows that I work for the church, and he knows I'm really involved in ministry. And so I'm like, yeah, I could go. And literally the day comes and I'm like, oh snap, I really can't go because I really have to be there at this event. And so I remember I didn't end up going, and I remember he texted me that same day, and he was like, I understand if you can't come because of the event, blah, 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 like really understanding. And I was like, dang, I really, really didn't think that one through. So I was like, okay, yeah, we'll rain check or something like that. And so we kind of started texting again. Not texting, it was more like Instagram Messenger and stuff like that. Instagram and Facebook Messenger. I was the type of person that was kind of like bouncing back and forth off of them until we settled, I think, on Instagram for a season. I'm not sure. Can't remember. But anyway, so now we're in November. I think it's November 7th. We had Ty Trebek come and perform. And so I remember this day was freezing cold, and I remember the only thing I wanted to do was be seen by him. And so I remember we went to the church, we had set up, we had everything ready for this guest, and because Emmanuel's an armor bearer, he had to man a certain door, when Ty Trebek came, he could open it, he could go into service, blah, 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 blah. And so because I'm staff, I had to help set up certain green rooms and certain spaces for our speakers and our guests and stuff like that for this event, like the pastors and stuff. And so I remember I was working in the back with one of my coworkers, and she was like, ooh, and I'm like, girl, stop. Like, you know what I mean? Like, chill out. And I just remember I kept going outside to, whose trunk was I going to? Because I didn't have a car. Like, at that time, I didn't have a license. was it Stephanie's car? I kept going to someone's trunk. Maybe it was my other coworker's trunk. I just kept going to someone's car. And I kept running out with my little heels and running back inside. And he would be the one to open the door for me because, he's manning that door. So I just kept doing that, all stupid, being all cold. And he kept saying that to me. He was like, you're crazy. Like, it's cold outside. And I'm like, yeah, but I got to do this and, whatever. And so I remember that's around the time when we were like more like social with each other in person too. So like he would talk trash about me. He'd be like, oh, you don't really serve, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know how when people kind of like bully you to be cute? That's kind of like what he was doing. And I remember after when the speaker did come, he was now in the sanctuary. And I remember I was in the sanctuary and I was, grabbing things and like recording, taking pictures, different little things like that. Just enjoying the concert, really, honestly. And I remember in that moment, I thought to myself, like, I really do like this guy and I don't want to not, see what it is, because it came back up and I'm thinking about how I felt like, okay, yeah, this is my husband. Like, God told me this is going to be my husband, And so I remember talking to my godmother and I was like, okay, Auntie Mo, I like him, because I had told her I liked him in May, and that's why she thought it was crazy also. And so when I saw him in November, I was like, I really do like him. I talked to her. I was like, Auntie Mona, I like him. What should I do? And then I told her like our backstory and how I kind of left him on red and stuff like that. And she was like, well, Angel, you already made yourself look like you're unavailable. You already made yourself look like you're not interested. And I was like, oh my gosh, dang, like you're right, because that's what I was doing, because I didn't want to be in a relationship that I didn't think was from God. And so she was like, I don't know, you're going to have to, be available. You know what I mean? You're going to have to, be open. And I was like, okay. At the same time, when I was telling her that I was interested in him, I was also thinking like, well, he's still not certain things on my list. And so I remember we had left, me and Pastor Mona, and I think a couple other women left to go to this conference out in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. And I remember me and Emmanuel were still, like messaging each other and stuff like that. And I remember I was talking to Auntie Mona, and then, I shared with her the list, and she's like, Angel, you don't even wear heels like that anymore. You don't even blah, blah, blah. Like, height is so stupid. Not stupid, but she was like, height is like one of those things that you could really just kind of get by. And I remember we were sitting in service, and the pastor that was speaking started talking about shallowness. And I will never forget, and me and her, we laugh about it all the time. Pastor Mona turned around and she said, yep, you're shallow. And I was like, oh, no, she didn't. She was like, yep, you're shallow. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she was like, yeah, you are. She was like, because you're going to kind of like dismiss this guy, even though you're kind of talking to him because of his height, but he's pretty much everything else on your list. And I remember thinking to myself like, okay, but I want someone tall. And she was like, Angel, he is taller than you, so you do get what you want. He is tall. And so I remember she said this. She was like, now, what if he was like 6'3", and then he gets in a car accident, and now he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life? Would you still love him? And I was like, dang, that's real. Because I would still love my husband if he was to get in a car accident, and God forbid he was in a wheelchair. So when she said that, I was like, wow, like that's so true. You never know, because the body, that's just flesh, but it's the heart, it's the inner, the inner parts of one person. So I was like, okay, I'm not shallow, so I'll talk to him or whatever. I'll see where it goes. And I remember we just kept talking ever since that day in November, like nonstop. So we were always talking. And I remember towards the middle to beginning of December, he had to be honest with me. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to slow down because I got out of a relationship not too long ago, and I just don't want to feel like I'm just jumping in and out of stuff. And I totally understood, because I was like, I don't want to be no rebound chick. Like, I want to be someone's wife. So I remember I was like, yeah, I respect that. I understand we could just be friends. And for me, when I said we could be friends, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to talk to you unless you know what you want to do, because I'm not going to be waiting around for somebody because I'm already waiting for my husband. Okay. And so I remember that was like the middle of December. I think what happened, we had a church gala, and at the gala, I remember we took our very first picture. Mind you, we're not talking, we're not dating, we're just friends. And I remember Stephanie, she's my girl, man. She's my hitter, my sissy. I love her. She was my wing woman, because I was like, I don't want to be stuck with him by myself, because I don't want to look away. I didn't want to, just do anything stupid either. Like, so I had her with me, and she was there with me. And I remember I went to the back with him, and he was like, oh, let's go take a picture. And so we went out to like the lobby area at the place that we were at to take the photo. And I remember this guy who serves in ministry, and him and his wife serve in ministry, took the picture. And I remember this other guy that I work with, he came up and he was like, what? Angel, what? Because he knew since I was like younger. He was like, Angel, what? Like, this is dope. This is dope. And in my head, I'm like, guys, like, don't make it seem like that, because it's really not that. But in my head, I'm like, I kind of like that. Like, you know what I mean? I kind of want that to be what it is. And so I remember we took our first picture together. I'll probably insert it while I'm talking about it too. And I remember after that, we had went on a date. I'm going to put air quotes because it really wasn't a date. But it was a date. I don't know. So we went to go see unless this was before the dinner. No, it was after. It had to be after. Yeah. So we went to go see the Christmas tree lighting in Downtown Crossing. And I remember he had some on the call. He had some calls that he had to do for work while he was out. So that's why I kind of didn't see it as a date. But it was fine. We went to downtown Boston. We saw the tree. I remember before I went on this date, I was talking to Pastor Mona, and she was like, okay, what if he does this? What if you do that? What if this? What if that? And then I remember in my head, I was so nervous, and like her asking me those questions, even though I've been on like dates and stuff like that, I don't know, I was really nervous. But her asking me those questions were really helpful, because I'm like, what if he does do that? What will I do? You know what I mean? Like, I remember she even asked something like, what if his hands are ashy? And I remember I busted out laughing like, girl, only you would ask something like that. Like, what if? But anyway, so we went on this little date, and I remember, it was straight. It was fine. We didn't do anything. He was really respectful, and that was it. That happened on a Thursday. I remember I went to work on Friday. I think that happened on a Thursday. I feel like it did, because I believe the next day, which was a Friday, I was at the church, and I remember I was in PM's office, and Pastor Matt came to the office, and he was like, hey, Angel, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And so I told him, that I went on this like date. And so I remember he was like, what? He was like, excuse me? And I was like, what? Like, what's the problem? Like, it's nothing. We're just friends. And obviously Auntie Mona was like, yeah, like, relax. Like, she was like, it's like, she's okay. Like, you know what I mean? He's a good guy. And I remember Pop, he was like, well, I'm going to have to talk to this guy or whatever. And I'm like, no, don't do that. I'm like, it's already awkward. Like, everybody knows that I'm your goddaughter. Like, I don't want the person that I date to feel like weird, or not just weird, but just weird, because I'm like, this is kind of like low-key embarrassing. But I understand, because there were certain things I went through, and they were there for it, and they don't want anyone to play around, because nobody has time for that. And so I remember I was like, Pop, no. And I remember he said, okay, we'll go at your pace or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, word. So that Sunday, I was in Boston, and Emmanuel, like I said, I didn't see him at church, because we have two locations. So he would serve at Stoughton's location, because that's closer to where he was living. Pastor Matt says to him, I heard you took my goddaughter out on an excursion. And my stomach started to roll because this is what I didn't want to happen, you see. And so I remember I was like, oh my gosh. And at this moment when he texted me, Pastor Matt had already left Jubilee Stoughton. He was just coming to arrive on stage. So there's certain things that, armor bearers have to do at the end of service so it could prepare into the next one. And so I got his text late, like a while after from when Pastor Matt asked him. So at this point, Pastor Matt's now walking on stage. And so when I got the text, I see Pastor Matt walking on stage and I'm like, what? Like, are you serious? And so I'm like, I'm so sorry, Emmanuel. Like, I didn't think he was gonna, do that. And he was like, no, it's okay. Like, I totally understand. Like, you're their goddaughter. And I was like, okay, word. So I really appreciated that he was understanding, but I was mad embarrassed. Like, are you kidding me? Like, really? And so, anywho, fast forward, I guess Pastor Matt has a conversation with Emmanuel, like, hey, what are your intentions? Like, but he just wants to know his intentions or something like that. I don't know. I don't know the actual, like, conversation. I just know that they had a conversation. And, a little bit after that, I remember it was December 29th. Emmanuel, how did we do this? Yes, that's how it was. So I remember I was off early, or I was off or something like that. I think I was off already. But I remember we went to the library because my brother was coming to pick me up so I could go to IKEA or something like that. I can't remember all of it right now, but I remember we were at the library. And I remember Manny, basically, there was this song. Oh, it's so corny. There was this song that he would replace the name with my name. And so it was the song Smile Jamaica, Smile. But instead he would say Smile, Angel, Smile. Oh, smile for me, Jamaica. And so he would say, smile for me, Angel. And so, y'all play the song and y'all hear the lyrics. And so I remember when he would sing this song or send it to me or whatever, I was like, yo, he likes me. Like, he likes me. And so we were at the library and he starts playing that song. And I remember he asked me the question, like, do you want to be my girl? And I was like, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm mad embarrassing. So I'm like, yeah. And so I remember from there we started dating. And so, we were dating, and I remember just thinking to myself, between that November date, and I'm going to give you guys these details, but between the November date and that day in December, we weren't dating. But I kept asking God, like, God, is he the one? Like, is he the one I'm supposed to be giving my energy towards? Is he the one that I'm supposed to be talking to? And I remember I would write in my journal still, because your girl don't play. And I remember I would look at my list and, like, literally I would check off the things that Emmanuel was. And, I remember my personal things that I didn't write down. And so Emmanuel checked off those things, and I was mind blown, because I was like, okay, the 3 things that I wanted my husband to have, not to have, but to be, but it's kind of silly, so people would be like, what? And that's why I didn't write it down, was I wanted him to be a pastor's kid. Emmanuel's dad is a pastor, and him and his wife minister in Guyana. I wanted him to play football in college. So Emmanuel did play football in college for a small period of time. It wasn't long at all. But it still counts. And I wanted him to be a part of a fraternity. I don't know why, but that's what I wanted. I wanted my husband to be a part of a fraternity, because I like the fact that they have, like, a brotherhood. But again, they're silly. Like, anybody else would look at them and be like, Angel, you're so weird. Like, that's so stupid. That's so dumb. But those are the three things that I really wanted my husband to have, but I didn't want to write them down. Not really wanted. I also had other things that were like non-negotiable. But those are the three things that I thought, like, yeah, I want this in a husband. And so obviously my non-negotiable items was like man of prayer, you know, honest, you know, funny, blah, 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 blah. All those good stuff that most women would want their husbands to have, you know. So when I was talking to Emmanuel and we were just friends and these things started getting checked off, especially the things that I didn't write down, I was like, oh, snap, like, this is different, you know. And there was a day where I remember I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep it in prayer. And I remember this was a season of Kislev. And so if you're someone that I send this message that Pastor Mona spoke about Kislev, Kislev is the season, okay? It's one of the months in the Hebrew calendar. I'll go into it another time, but basically during this season, I was running around left and right saying I'm getting married, and everybody thought I was crazy, but I was like, no, I know I'm getting married, because in that month you have to say what you believe God is going to do for you. And I just kept saying I'm going to be married. And I remember I said, God, I don't want to waste no time. Like, if Emmanuel's the one, please confirm it. And I remember even with those confirmations that I had, like knowing that God said that was going to be my husband, knowing that he checked off all those things in the list, I still was like, I just want to know, like, I just want to know that I know, because I didn't want to be uncertain, you know. I was in other relationships where I was like, oh, maybe, you know. I wanted to know, like, God, this is the guy that you have for me. And so, I'm sorry guys that this is a long video, but like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling it. But anywho, so I remember in this husband journal, I was like, I'm not, actually, let me go grab the husband journal so you guys could kind of see it. Okay, guys, I'm back. I had to grab the husband journal. So this was the first original husband journal. It's literally just a journal from TJ Maxx or Marshall's, like one of those places. And I will show you guys how it looks. I started it, you know, I'd write, and I didn't write all the time. I just wrote here and there, you know, different things like that. And so let's see if my list is in this one. The original list. I think I moved it. So, oh no, here it is. I'll show you guys the check marks, but you see it, the check marks. Those were the check marks that I checked off. Oh, there's some that I didn't even check off, because he definitely is my flirt. He's definitely committed and honest. He is humble. Did he give me flowers on the first 3 dates? I can't remember, so I don't really want to check that. He is protective. He does sing with me. He does hold my hand. Oh, my baby. He does love me. I can't say that one out loud. Amen. And we don't have kids yet, but I know he's going to be a great father. So good and excellent with money. Check, check, check. He is spontaneous. He is a prayer warrior. But yeah, so that was my list. And that was in 2017 that I rewrote it in this journal. So I remember I was saying to myself, like, God, I don't want to write Emmanuel's name in this journal, and he's not my husband, and then I have to rip the page out. And so I remember I was like, oh God, come on, like, don't do this to me. And I remember I literally wrote everything down, guys. I wrote how long we spoke on the phone. I wrote everything. Different things like that. Anyway, so I remember, I'm so embarrassed, but I'm so grateful. So I literally said, God, I didn't want to write any man's name in this journal. And if I was wrong, I would be embarrassed, because then I have to rip the page out. And I'm like, no. So, and I don't know if it's going to show, but anyways, November 20th, 2017, I wrote, and the title was, I'm just going to say it. And I wrote, Emmanuel Light, you are my husband, At first, I was afraid to write your name in this journal because I was afraid of being wrong. But I trust God. And then I continued to write. That night when I went to sleep, that night when I went to sleep, I had a dream and God confirmed it for me that Emmanuel was going to be my husband. And I remember I woke up the next day. Let me see if I wrote what I wrote the next day. I remember I woke up the next day. I woke up the next day and I wrote, oh my God, I even wrote the, oh my God, I'm literally so weak. So I haven't looked at these ever since I wrote them. And so God confirmed it. And so this is so beautiful. So I wrote that, God confirmed it. And I wrote other things inside of this journal also with people that would come up to me and be like, are you guys talking? And, stuff like that. And just God is so good, guys. God is so good. But anyway, so that was my first official husband journal. This was the original. I didn't keep this one as the one I wrote in because I wanted this to be a gift I gave Emmanuel on our wedding date. And so I wanted it to look really nice. And I didn't like how this looked anymore. I just didn't like how it looked. So I literally started to rewrite everything into this journal. And so as you can see, it's very cute. It says thoughts because that's what I wrote in here. My thoughts for my husband. Yep. So anywho, and that's when I started having like really nice handwriting in it and like made sure it was really nice. And so I even did a vision board inside of my husband journal. But yeah, I'll go into more details about this husband journal. So anyways, in November, I also shared with Auntie Mona and Kim Ayala about me getting married to Emmanuel, and I knew he was going to be my husband because, again, remember, this is the season of Kislev. I'm running around. I'm telling everybody I'm getting married. Pastor Matt at this point was like, Angel, you need to stop because Emmanuel's going to think you're crazy and you need to relax because this is kind of crazy. But I was like, I'm getting married. I remember me and Pastor Mona was like dancing in her dining room, singing that I was getting married because she was like believing with me. Even Stephanie, we were all believing. But I have to say this, when I wasn't feeling Emmanuel, Stephanie was the one that kept saying, that's your husband, that's your husband, that's your husband. And I remember I would literally want to rip her head off like, girl, you need to stop saying that. But look who's married to Emmanuel. Yes, shout out to Stephanie for always being his number one supporter. But anyway, so I had this journal. I wrote everything in it. And on our wedding night, I gave it to him and I told him how I've been praying for him. I've been praying for our future and all that good stuff. So anyway, so we start dating December 29th, and everything from there is like history. I mean, our relationship's great. We're always talking. We're accountable to Pastor Matt and Mona, and we keep our relationship very private because we didn't want people in it. Because the one thing with relationships, especially when you're dating with the intent to marry, some people sometimes will try to get in the middle of that. Some people will try to, break it apart. Some people don't even work out. So like if me and Emmanuel didn't work out, I didn't want to be in the public eye where people knew that we dated, and then God forbid that prevented somebody else from, being his girlfriend to potentially be his wife, because women are like that. Like, oh, I'm not going to date him because he dated so-and-so, but it's like, whoa, like if it didn't work out between them, clearly that wasn't the one. But to each their own. I'm not here to judge. But anyway, so we kept our relationship private. And only a few people knew, people that were covering us, people who we trusted, but not a lot of people were involved in our relationship while we were courting because we wanted to make sure it was covered and that we were certain that, we were each other's to-be spouse. when it started getting really serious, I would start posting pictures of me and Emmanuel, but I would always keep his face covered because I didn't want people in my business at all. I didn't want anyone to come and mess it up, you know. So, but I also wanted people to know that I'm all set. I'm off the market. And so we are now in August, and I remember I went to the beach with Chef Patricia. She's my girl. I love her. Chef Patricia and my mom. And I remember we were in the ocean, and you know, she knew about our relationship. And I remember, you know, just like everybody else, she would say the same thing, like, "Oh, you guys are gonna get married. You guys are gonna get married," because everybody knew. That was what I kept saying. I kept saying I was getting married because I knew I was gonna get married, to Emmanuel, especially that. And so I remember we were in the ocean. She was like, "When do you think you're going to get married? I mean, not married. When do you think he's going to ask the question?" I'm like, I hope it's before the end of September. Like, and she was like, "Yeah, it's going to be before the end of September," because I had thought originally that he was going to propose to me on my birthday. And if not my birthday, it was going to be 6 months into our relationship, because I went by the whole thing of, you know, if this person's going to be your spouse within the first 6 months. Like, I don't know about y'all, but any relationship I was ever in, I always knew if I was supposed to be in that relationship or not. And I chose to either stay or leave. And so with that being said, I remember I was like, yeah, it's either within the first 6 months of dating or on my birthday he was going to propose. So it didn't happen any of those times. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, dang, is he ever going to ask? But not really, because I was okay with the process of courting. So me and Chef were in the water. She's like, yeah, he's going to ask before the end of September. I'm like, yeah, he's going to ask before the end of September. And so this was like the end of August. I think this was the last day of August, actually. The next day, we were to go to Martha's Vineyard to meet with Pastor Matt and Mona, just to talk about, you know, how we're doing courting, how's everything going, like, you know, just all like the check-in stuff. That's how I took it. And I also knew, like, the vineyard for me is just a place that I go to relax, because my first time going to the vineyard was with Pastor Matt and Mona. And so when I'm there, I'm just like them. I'm on vacation. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be on vacation. But I remember Emmanuel was like, "Oh, we could take photos out in the vineyard," like, you know, and I was like, "Okay, sure." Like, you know, so we get to the vineyard. My mom comes with us because she's never been. So I was like, okay, that's fine, because I think Pastor Mona was like, we're going to celebrate Cam's birthday on the beach. And I was like, sure, you know, Mom, you could come, you could bring something, you could cook something, whatever. And so my mom's like, oh, I'm excited. I've never been to the vineyard. I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be great. So we're in the ferry, you know, Emmanuel drives us. We get in the ferry. We're at the vineyard. We tell my mom to meet up with Pastor Mona. And Pastor Mona comes, picks her up, and, you know, we go and we meet with Pop, because it's, you know, obviously it's just a private meeting. My mom doesn't have to be there. And so we're talking, you know, Pastor Matt's talking to us, we're counseling, blah, 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 blah. And so he's like, oh, let's go to the beach now, so we could do Cam's birthday thing. And I'm like, okay, word. And so I'm thinking at this point, like, we're not going to take any pictures. So I know that once we walk over to the beach, there won't be any place to change. So I'm like, oh, I could just change in the bathroom. And so as we're walking to the beach, Emmanuel's like, no, don't change. Like, we're going to take pictures. Like, just, you know, stay in your outfit or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And so we get to the beach and I see everybody setting up. And then my mom's like, you guys go for a walk. And I'm like, what? Like, why are you being weird or whatever? And so she pulls me. And she was like, I want to talk to you or something like that. And so we talk, and she's like, oh, I wish your brother and sister was here. I miss your dad, you know, just having to talk. And I'm like, oh, Mom, it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Because in my head, I'm like, oh, my mom's just being emotional. Like, this is her first time in the vineyard. She's missing my brother and sister. Like, you know, moms, like, they just be like that. And so, and I totally understood that she was missing my dad too. So I was like, yeah, Mom, it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever. And so I remember when we started walking back, because we got a phone call like, oh, let's get ready. We're about to get ready to sing to Cam. So we start walking back to where everybody is. And then I kid you not, I see my best friend and I see my brother and my mouth drops. And so that's when you guys saw that video of, you know, the proposal, and my mouth drops and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm crying. You know, he asked me, he's crying, and it was just so beautiful. Total surprise. Everyone thought I knew because before that I did my nails myself with the dip powder, and so everyone's like, oh, she knows, she has to know. And then when we got to the beach, they thought I saw their decorations, because it wasn't really decorations for a birthday, but I didn't see anything. I literally remember walking to the beach. I saw Stephanie had a yellow dress on, but then I remember my mom quickly came and she took me on the beach to talk and walk or whatever. And so everyone was surprised that I didn't know. And I was like, guys, I really didn't know. Like I really didn't know. And not to mention, Emmanuel got me the ring I wanted, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But it goes to show you that God will give you what your heart desires. And so we get engaged. It's amazing. It's great. And now I'm like, I'm ready to be married because your girl's celibate. I want to get married. Like, I want to just be married at this point. I'm like, I'm getting married. Let's just get married. And so I'm like, so at this point we're trying to figure out the date. And so I'll share that in another video, but we figure out our date. We get married in December on a Tuesday. We have tons of people, over 600 people show up for our wedding. It's very low cost, very low budget, beautiful decorations, beautiful energy, beautiful vibe, beautiful wedding. The videos are all on my YouTube, but I didn't want this video to get too long, and it's obviously really long. So thank you for staying. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing our story on how we met and how Emmanuel proposed, and, you know, even how we got married. But if you guys want to know more, like how we figured out our date, because that's so divine. Like, when I told Emmanuel the date, he said no, and I was like, what? But that's a whole nother story. So I'll share that on another one. But guys, God is good. His love is so good. He knows your heart. He knows what, you know, what you're believing. He knows everything. And so when I tell you this was nothing but God, like, it's nothing but God. Emmanuel's take on the story is a little different. You know how guys could be, so I'll have him share his. But guys, when I tell you, I can't make none of this up. I really can't. God showed me. I didn't believe it. Then I believed it. Then we started dating. Literally, I told you guys we started dating December 29th, 2017. We got married December 4th, 2018. And so here we are. God is good. I love my husband, Emmanuel. I love you so much. You're my rock. You're my greatest asset. You're my partner. I love you so much, baby. I love you. But yeah, I love you guys. Thank you. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, you're brilliant. You're great. You're blessed. God loves you. And don't let them dim your light. Keep shining, baby. You're doing a great job. All right, guys. I'm tired. I'm out. If you like the makeup look, click somewhere on the screen. The video's there. Peace, love, and hair grease. Hey, beautiful people. Real quick. I know this one was a long one, but guys, I had to try to condense it all up in one video. But guys, there's so much more that I want to share with you guys. So if you really enjoyed this content, please let me know. DM me, message me, like this video, share it, comment below, tell me how I can help you. I want to encourage you guys that it's gonna happen, especially to all my single ladies. It's gonna happen. He will find you. Do not worry about it. And to my fellas that happen to jump on this video, get yourself in a place so you can find your wife. That's all I'm gonna say. Guys, I love you. Remember, you're the bomb.com. See you guys on the next one. Deuces.